You to become acquainted with our school through this pictorial visit. Concordia Collegiate Institute is one of 10 schools of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod in North America. Located in Westchester County on a 30-acre campus in Bronxville, New York, Concordia is one school with 2 separate divisions, a preparatory school for boys and a junior college for young men and women. Now more than 75 years old, with a growing campus, Concordia serves but one purpose: to help young people to become equipped for a life of service. Concordia is an arm of the church and of our congregations, an important arm because of her specific purpose. Here young people are preparing for service in the church as pastors and missionaries and as teachers in our parish schools. Another large group of young people is preparing for careers in the business and professional world, to become scientists and businessmen, doctors and nurses, secretaries and technicians. For all of them, the primary principle which this campus fosters is that life reaches its highest meaning only as we come to know our God through Jesus Christ, and then in love serve Him by serving our fellow man. Upon that principle, the church places chief emphasis in the education of the young people in this age which is so conscious of the need for education. What of the future? What of your future? A Christian education makes life meaningful in any age and for any kind of a future. It will help to build the church and to give meaningful security to every individual and even to the nation. We at Concordia are grateful to the Alumni Association for making it possible for us to bring these views of campus life to you. As these scenes pass before you, we extend a warm invitation to the young people to plan their lives in terms of serving their God and their fellow men. We invite you to plan such a life in the Concordia way.
Hail to thee, Concordia, loyal sons and bold. Hail to thee, Concordia, men of the blue and gold. Raise your voices loud and clear, let the whole world hear. We're true to thee, Concordia, our alma mater dear.
What does it take to become an architect, to convert a set of blueprints into a finished building? This architect is a graduate of Concordia, class of 29. He's one of many professional men, Concordia graduates, and now Christian lay leaders. As an architect, his work involves much more than a knowledge of engineering principles. In the work of designing buildings, he deals daily with hundreds of people. As he applies his Christian principles in daily action, he performs an even greater task. Building a church requires considerably more than brick or stone. A new church begins with souls. People are visited in their homes. They're invited. This young pastor of the class of 48 is one of many former Concordians starting new congregations in this way. Many won't respond at first, but the work persists and eventually succeeds, for results are assured in the promises of God Himself. These temporary quarters will someday be replaced with a new church building. In one more community, souls are being reached with the Christian good news. Along another highway, this time in Nigeria, West Africa, the Christian gospel is also being spread. This minister, class of 45, now works with his wife and 2 children among the natives of another continent. He's just returned after a 9-month visit to the United States for another 3-year term of missionary service. Leading God's little ones is a specialized task. The parish school helps fill this vital need. Here, the 4th R is added to the other 3 R's. Concordia helps train teachers like this. Being a housewife and mother is a combination of many talents. It isn't only the result of a special course or any number of courses. The total training this mother acquired in her Concordia years helped construct a Christian attitude based on love and filled with patience and understanding. All this doesn't happen simply by accident. For each of these graduates and many hundreds like them, what they are today is in large part a direct result of an earlier Christian education, in this case, a Concordia education. Concordia means a school life that gives more than clear thought and good expression. A Concordia education goes beyond the subject matter taught to give meaning and purpose to chosen careers. At Concordia today, Christian education, modern laboratories equipped with ability for a broad range of experiments. All of this is taught in a setting of Christian conviction at a deep level. In the daily chapel as well as in the classroom, Concordia's teachers give expression to their own faith, keeping the student's spiritual growth on a level with his classroom study. Life at Concordia is many-sided. Part of it is the excitement of cheering the Concordia Clippers to victory on a sunny fall afternoon, or playing the role of Monday morning quarterback at a dormitory bull session. Because New York City is only a half-hour train ride from Concordia, the many advantages it has to offer are part of student life. It may be a boat ride around Manhattan Island, or a visit to the museums and churches, or some special exhibition, or even a Broadway play. On campus, a student can always find a quiet spot for study and thoughtful meditation. The new Walter A. Meyer Memorial Library, dedicated to one of Concordia's most prominent alumni, serves this purpose. Concordia has a rich and colorful history. Its student life today is the product of a tradition which dates from a previous century. Today, Concordia presents an imposing complex of buildings on a 30-acre campus. It's now actually 2 separate schools, a 2-year college and a 4-year preparatory high school.
In Concordia Hall, we gather every day. In Concordia Hall, in Concordia Hall.
This is the prep school, the school home of young men from all over the East. No one who's ever been here will ever forget the excitement of getting back that first day. You get your room all straightened. You see again your old friends. You discuss that summer job or talk about the camp or the vacation trip. Very close friendships are made. And it goes on after the first day. There's a whole new world of friends and ideas. Experiences are shared. Companionship is enjoyed. There's a lot of talk. The relationship between faculty and student is also one of warmth. In sports, the fun of being together works two ways. There are the men who play together and the large crowds who cheer them on. In the dining hall, friendliness is the keynote. Even high school appetites wait for a moment. Talk about last night's basketball victory is still on the bill of fare. And then sometimes food invades a free-for-all bull session. That last laundry case from home had just enough room for a box of cookies. Sharing both food and ideas helps to develop real fellowship. This isn't the only feature of Concordia Prep. Like it or not, there's studying that has to be done. Here is the school's real purpose: to prepare young men for the future. Life here is centered around learning. 7 periods a day are spent in the classroom. 2 hours each evening are devoted to books. It all starts early, before 7 to be exact. Above all, Concordia is a Christian school. Bible history, Christian truth, eternal facts, they are all part of the religion courses. Even more, the Christian spirit is always present. Its viewpoint enters every class. Regardless of what you want to be or where you want to go on to college, Concordia Prep School or Concordia Junior College can prepare you. Doctors have gone on from Concordia to Columbia. Engineers from MIT got their start at Concordia. Historians have moved from here to Harvard. But pastors are Concordia's main concern. Its chief purpose is to prepare young men for the Christian ministry. Toward this end, Concordia teaches all the time. Faculty members willingly give of their time after classes. There are resident counselors in the dorm. Their doors are always open. Aid is always available. Help for classwork, advice for the future, any questions at all. This young man started studying for the ministry 3 years ago. Now he's not sure. So he's come to Professor Weidman, the high school principal, for advice. This is but the first of a series of consultations. Prayer is suggested. Faith in Christ is measured. A frank self-evaluation is made. Through it all, this young man will grow in faith and confidence. All work and no play does make Jack a dull boy. Future ministers, teachers, scientists, historians, or what have you, don't prepare for life's work only in the classroom or study hall. They do it in many ways. Sportsmanship is learned here, together with the technique of basketball. Every 2 weeks, the staff of the Prepster publishes a new edition. It helps train the news givers as well as gives the news. Writing, typing, drawing, working together, learning to give of self and talent, experience in the art of expression. These are all gleaned by those who work on this project. The Student Council is an active part of Concordia life. These young men were elected by their classmates. Each class is represented. The council sits once a week to thresh out students' problems. Imaginations are stimulated. Ideas are expressed. Stage presence is learned as Concordia prepsters prepare for their spring play. Days are filled. It's a busy life at Concordia. Soon spring arrives. Baseball is in the air. The plate is dusted for action. Instructions are given. One run coming in. And now the team slugger is at the plate. It looks like a home run. Oh well, errors score runs too. Another year is nearly over. The last push is on for final exams. A little extra time is put in with books. And we move on, prepared in mind and soul for whatever lies ahead.
In Concordia Hall.
Another part of the Concordia story is the junior college. It's actually another student body with a separate college faculty and an academic program all its own. Here in the Brunmeyer Science Hall and Library, most college classes are held. It offers the finest technical facilities for laboratory work, lecture halls for instruction and demonstration, and a modern college library. Life at Concordia means a variety of things, like open house get-togethers at one of the dorms on a Saturday night. There's talk about the last exam, next week's football game, latest campus gossip, or perhaps a few experimental parries in the art of becoming better acquainted. Some of the experiences longest remembered are those steeped in school tradition, such as the coronation of the campus queen on homecoming day. It comes as the climax to weeks of preparation and electioneering among vying contestants for the crown. The Christmas season is particularly meaningful on Concordia's campus. Presenting its annual Christmas pageant is a major production. For the players, there is the excitement of rehearsal and the joy of presenting again the story of Jesus' birth to the many hundreds who come to watch. Bidding classmates a Merry Christmas, going home for the holidays, and you suddenly become aware that a college year is almost half gone. Sometime in the last part of January, after midterm exams, the student choir leaves for its annual concert tour. Combining song with side trips to local points of interest, the choir travels through New England, the Midwest, or the southern states. Perhaps Concordia College can best be understood and explained when seen through individual students. Let's look at one of the college men. This is Paul, a rather modest, serious young man. He came to Concordia from Rome, New York. As a chemical engineering student, he spends much time in study, nearly too much, in fact. He's almost late for class. Let's go along with him. Chemistry is one of the principal classes in Paul's chemical engineering course. Today he gets theory. This is important. In a subject like chemistry, Paul and his classmates first learn the principles, and they must learn them thoroughly. Then they put them to practice. Paul's instructor knows that the students must learn to think logically in the lab. This kind of thinking will best prepare them for their life's work. Paul's life isn't all with books. Exercise is important for every young man. Tennis is Paul's sport. Watch him now. He did win that point, didn't he? Term papers are a part of college training. Paul gets in on this too. Here he has one assigned in sociology. Let's see now. His topic is job security and its social implications. That will take some real study, and soon. The outline is due within 10 days, and then a check with the prof.
Come in.
Good afternoon, Professor.
Oh, hello, Paul. Won't you sit down? I guess you've come to see me about your term paper.
That's right.
Let's see, your subject is job security and its social implications.
That's right.
A fine job that you have done as far as you've gone, Paul. I've jotted down a few comments in the margin. You may check them later in your room. There's just one question.
What is it?
In discussing job security, what do you plan to say about pension plans, unemployment insurance, and social security? Just how do you expect to approach these matters?
I thought I'd approach it from the viewpoint of an individual, say an average family man. The more I've been reading and thinking about these things, the more important they seem, especially when a man's trying to find out what kind of a job he wants.
Well, that's all right as far as you go, Paul, but let's look at another side. When you graduate, will you look for a job which features only security?
What do you mean?
Well, let's look at it this way. For what kind of work are you preparing yourself here at Concordia?
I'm planning to be a chemical engineer.
And how did you decide on that?
I don't know. Oh, I've always liked lab work. I've always wanted to be a chemist since high school. There's a need for them today, too. I suppose I feel I can do my best in that field.
In other words, it's where you can make your greatest contribution and do your best work that led you to this decision, rather than the money you can earn.
Well, yes, but I still feel that financial security is an important consideration, too.
Sure, it's important. In fact, a lot of people have made it far too important in deciding what they want to be. But satisfaction with your life won't come merely from the money you earn. It comes from the service you'll be able to give society. And the highest service you can render to society is also the service you render to your Savior.
I see what you mean, sir. But when we talk about service and personal satisfaction, the topic gets pretty complex, especially with all the different ideas people have these days about what is worthwhile.
Well, that's true, Paul, but you might recall something we discussed at the beginning of our course. As Christians, we do know what our goals are. The important thing to discover is a way to give a meaning to these goals in our life and our work. I'll tell you what, I have a book here, and I believe that if you will read chapter 7, I am sure that it will make this view clear to you.
Paul began to learn something here. more than the specific point of a term paper. As he dug into books and thought, he realized that job security isn't the only thing. A sense of service to God and man is a greater reward. He wrote it on paper, and he'll remember it through life. There are many things Paul will remember in later years. There was the stage manager's job at the annual Christmas play. And his lab work. Those hours of experimentation were a special joy. To Paul, it was always a thrill to satisfy his inquisitive mind and share his newfound knowledge with classmates. One of them is Barbara, a teacher training student. Barbara is planning to teach in one of our parish schools. College life has its pleasant side for Barbara. Here she is with her date in Manhattan's Rockefeller Plaza with her roommate Thea and her date. Taking in the sights of the Great White Way. Back uptown in the subway. And a show at the music hall. Then there's an evening with the girls. It's pizza and Pepsi tonight, and a lot of talk and laughter. A gay time. This is obviously the pre-diet stage in a girl's life. Here's where Barbara and Thea live and work. Life for teacher trainees includes work, a lot of it, and serious concern for the future.
Having an exam tomorrow?
No, no exam. I've just been looking over this folder here.
What folder is that?
You remember, Barbara, we went over to Trinity School the other day for that class observation. Well, they gave us a couple folders to take along.
It's pretty, isn't it? That's a nice looking place.
You know, Barbara, every time I look at something like this, I get goose pimples.
Goose pimples?
I mean it, Barb. Why, the teacher we were watching the other day, she didn't have 1 minute to herself for 4 solid hours. What a schedule. My, that's a lot of responsibility. I just wonder whether I'll be able to handle anything as big as all that.
Oh, don't worry about that, Thea. You're only a freshman. By the time you've finished here in River Forest, you won't have any trouble.
I don't know. There's so many questions. Not only the responsibility, but what about marriage and salary and the other professions? It makes me wonder.
Well, you've always wanted to be a teacher, haven't you, Thea?
Yeah, but I've never had to face some of these things before.
Well, golly, Thea, when you stop to think of it, there are advantages and disadvantages in any job. I think it's foolish to worry about things that probably won't cause trouble anyway. I bet I know where you can get your questions answered.
Where's that, Bart?
Dr. Whitmer is coming up here next week. You know about him, don't you? He's director of parish education in the East. He's bound to answer some of your questions.
Maybe you're right. I'll put that down.
Thea kept that appointment, and so did a number of the other girls. For the first time, these young women had come face to face with career problems. They had many questions for Dr. Whitmer. Teaching was no longer a future dream. Teacher training at Concordia College isn't only theory. There's practice, too. This helps answer many questions. Here, in cooperation with one of our Christian day schools, Concordia provides Thea, Barbara, and their classmates with more information, training, and experience. And of course, there's the human touch, the feel of the classroom, the love of a child. Experiences like this are part of the Concordia curriculum. One of the pleasant sidelights at Concordia is a few leisure moments on the beautiful campus. Barbara and Thea will long remember times like these, just a few moments with a good friend, or two, like George. From the day George entered Concordia, he was slated for popularity. Barbara and Thea knew him as a studious, enthusiastic future minister. George came from Canada to prepare for the Lutheran ministry. Aside from general college courses, George spent many hours studying the Holy Bible. Together with other future ministers, he attended the special religion class taught by President Meyer himself. Concordia also afforded George opportunities to express himself in groups. As a member of the student council, he gained experience that will prove invaluable later on. This is something George really liked. Filled with ideas, he proposed a traveling committee of students to promote Concordia at Walther League meetings. His idea was accepted in the council, and George kept talking it up. His enthusiasm caught on. Before long, one student after another volunteered to do his bit. Something else Concordia did for George was teach him the value of study. Just to be enthusiastic isn't enough. You have to know everything you can about the object of your enthusiasm. So George soon learned his way about the library. Books, religious periodicals, magazines, all were worthy of his regular attention. George found that even so-called dull subjects could be alive, like the time in the New Testament Greek class when...
is one of the most important verses in Scripture. There are two important key words in it. The first is dikaiō, and the other is piste. Let us consider first the word dikaiō. Is there anyone here who can tell me what this word means?
I believe it means to justify, doesn't it, sir?
That's right, Mr. Frankel. Now, can anyone elaborate?
Isn't the idea of righteousness included?
That's right, Mr. Benson. But what I wanted to know is what kind of justification the word dikaiō connotes.
I believe, Professor, that dikaiō refers to God declaring man righteous.
Go on, Mr. Ollis.
Well, in the English, this first verse says, "Therefore we conclude that a man is justified by faith without the deeds of the law." Justification in this connection means that man or the sinner is declared righteous by God. The sinner can't earn it.
That's right. Here's where we see the meaning of Christ's death and resurrection. Because of Christ, we are declared justified by God the Father. Dikaiō, to declare just, was one of the key words.
Dikaiō, piste. For future ministers, they are words of importance, not just classroom jargon. Already they become the basis of discussion outside the classroom, too. By the time George and his friends become your pastors, they'll be well grounded in many of these words that give meaning to the faith we hold dear. Evening chapel gave George a good opportunity to express his faith. He took his regular turn leading evening devotions. Graduation at Concordia, for most students, does not mean the end of a formal education. George will go on to senior college in Fort Wayne and then to the seminary in St. Louis. Barbara and Thea will go on to River Forest. Paul will continue his chemistry studies at Columbia University. Concordia graduates go on to many schools, and perhaps they'll look back at their Concordia days as only the beginning of a long road. But beginnings are important. A pace has been set in study and learning. A career has been plotted and has become real. This has been the task of Concordia, your school, dedicated to prepare young men and women for Christian service in the church and world. Concordia's motto best describes its purpose and explains its success through many years. Nisi Dominus Frustra. Without God, nothing.